Yeah, and I will hand over to Jonathan now, and he has also his testimony.
Well, I'll share my testimony, a very recent one, but I want to actually talk about God's timing. I believe it's important for everyone, kids, young adults, and yeah, God's really. This morning we were singing about how great is our God, and there was that one part where it said, age to age, He stands. Time is in His hands, and I was thinking like, time is in God's hands, and it's also something we all struggle with, waiting on God. And so I joined the ship 2 weeks ago, but I was a volunteer on the ship 8 years ago. So 8 years ago, Logosop came to Sri Lanka, and you know how like the ship's in South Africa and we have few South African volunteers. Whenever the ship goes to a country, they have few local volunteers who come and they work with us. We work with them and we learn about the country, they learn about Logosop. It's great. We have lots of South Africans on the ship right now. So when the ship came to Sri Lanka, I volunteered for 2 weeks. I didn't sail, I was just in the port, but I loved my time on board. It was amazing. I worked at the iCafe and in the book fair for a few days. It was 2 weeks, but in those 2 weeks, God really put it in my heart, like, I knew I wanted to be here for a longer time. I wanted to sail with the ship. I wanted to serve with the ship and, go to different countries, which is fun, but also to be able to share about Jesus, which is something I always wanted to do, and it's also something that's in God's heart. And this was 8 years ago, 2015, and I remember when the ship was leaving, I wanted to join the ship while it was still in Sri Lanka 8 years ago, but I couldn't. I had to go back to Bangladesh and apply and get accepted and go through the process. And I did that, I did all of that, but it wasn't working out. It was a long process, it was complicated, I couldn't raise enough support, and I did not join the ship back then. But I knew God called me, He put it in my heart, like, I'm gonna be here. And I just knew that in my heart, but I wasn't seeing it happen. And I was very upset. But, and 8 years went by, and at first I didn't understand why. And in the last 3 years, I always wanted to be a missionary, like travel to the ends of the earth for the gospel, right? That's how we say it. That's how I would say it, and I always wanted that. But I ended up for the past 6-7 years. My dad got sick, I had to get a job, I worked, and in the last 3 years, I wanted to again apply, and I've had over 5 visas rejected, of which one of them was also a South African visa 3 years ago. And it still didn't make sense why things weren't working out, right? But last year, towards the end of last year, I applied for South Africa again. Well, on January I did, and I applied to join Logosop. And it was also, I was going through a really difficult time, and God gave the visa. It came late. I was supposed to join the ship in Richards Bay, but I just came 2 weeks ago. But I got my visa, and I'm on the ship. And when I look back at my 8 years, and the things I went through, like the good times, the bad times, there were lots of bad times, the challenges, like I would not go back and change any of that, because God used all of that to make me who I am today. He taught me so much about His timing, His goodness, and to just trust in Him. And 8 years later, I'm on the ship and I committed 2 years. So it's been 2 weeks, but I still have almost 2 years to go. And that's who God is, right? And that's what I want to encourage all the young people and everyone in general. We can trust in God's timing because He is faithful. And even the song we heard this morning, like, when we know who God says we are, like, we heard, like, you say I'm strong, you say I'm loved, even though I don't see it, I don't feel it. But when we really know, like, what God tells us, like, I knew God wanted me to go, and I did not lose that, even though I didn't see it happening. And, God, He came, right? And I want to back up my testimony with a story from the Bible, which also I'm really amazed with. And that's the story of Lazarus. If you know it, Lazarus was a really good friend of Jesus who was really sick, and Jesus was away somewhere else, and people came and said, Jesus, your friend who you love so much is sick, and Jesus was upset, but Jesus did not go right away, and what happened to Lazarus? He died, and he was buried. He was put in the tomb, and when Jesus came, people, they literally told him, it's late. He's been in there for 4 days, right? And Jesus wept, right? He cried. He was sad. And that really shows me that in that waiting process, that Jesus is with you. He was with me. He feels what we feel. When we're down, He's down. When we rejoice, He rejoices, right? And what did Jesus do with Lazarus? He raised him from the dead, right? He came 4 days late, but He raised him from the dead. And the impact that had, I don't think it would have been the same if Jesus came on time, like right away, right? So what I'm saying is, Jesus came 4 days late, but He was on time. He raised Lazarus from the dead. He was not late. God's timing is perfect, right? I know He could have brought me to the ship 8 years ago, but He brought me to the ship 8 years later, and I believe His timing is perfect. And I encourage you, as if there's something that you are longing for, you want to go, there's a place you want to go, there's something you want to do, don't give up on it, and don't give up on God, because God is with you in the process, and He will complete what He started. So, trust God and know that His timing is perfect, especially when you don't see it. That's what I want to encourage you with today. Thank you.